Hi, I'm Kate Fox, and I am here today speaking with Laura Cerrano of Feng Shui Manhattan.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Well, actually, I'm so glad I'm here.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Because this is your office.
Yes.
This is the space where you do workshops.
Getting ready to open up this space to host workshops and then certification classes. Very exciting.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yes.
That's very. I have been seeing some things, some more events you've been doing, and a lot. Well, this has been around for a long time, but it's much more. I'm going to use the word popular, for lack of a better one. It's more accepted.
Becoming. Yep.
So more popular with the mainstream, if you will.
Yeah. It's more accepted. It's becoming. In the 90s, the practice of it was becoming more well received, and now we're at a point where we're getting ready to transition from it's just a form of interior design to it's a form of healing and to maintain that healing, which is really exciting. So the definition of it is beginning to transfer to something that is more tangible, yet it's also spiritual, and that is becoming more accepted too, which is exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Now, can you explain the principles to me?
Yes. Principles. There are so many, but one of the easier ways to, I guess, package it is to say that it's a form of self-development utilizing your surroundings. So whatever you do to your home environment, your work environment, it will influence the mindset, the energy of the self. So it also teaches you about what are beneficial activities in your lifestyle versus not.
So say you have, we'll do workspace first. A workspace that is very sparse, very Spartan with, here's this here, here's that here, but no real, in some offices people have pictures and, here's a lei from a vacation, and here's a little shot glass someone got me, and here's this and that, and there are other people who, this is what I need to work, this is my space, here's my one pen. How do these people function differently, would you say? Or does it depend on the person?
It depends on the person. It depends on the job, the profession, what's required of these individuals or a grouping of people. So there are various ways in how you can approach it. There are at least several different methods in Feng Shui that make up this conversation. There can be the Bagua Map. There can be, which is more westernized Feng Shui. There can be the compass method, which is more of the original traditional method. So you're looking at the directions that best suit each individual or maybe the grouping of people. Then you can also talk about environmental psychology. So that's another branch of it. Biomorphic design. So that's talking about taking in elements of the natural surroundings like plants and things of that nature. Maybe having more curvature in the designs of things, because we scientifically resonate better with things that are curved.
Really?
Yeah, and that's been scientifically proven. So there was a study done through the Smithsonian Museum where they had an exhibit, and they had these various scientists and researchers create an exhibit where people would go to, and they would have forgive me, I forget the name of the exact plugs, but they had these plugs all over the head, and they would measure the brain waves and the frequencies to see what would go up or what would neutralize or what would go down, and they'd also do a survey saying, do you prefer sharp, jagged edges versus round, curved ones, and they started to see the data that was being collected was saying, no, we prefer rounded, curved, and that's a principle in Feng Shui, is that we design mainly with rounded, curved, or beveled edges because we don't want to, from a Feng Shui perspective, cut into the qi or to the energy of people or animals or other buildings itself, and instead we want to coexist with our environment. So that's where the principles and the concept of living a lifestyle of harmony, not with just yourself, but with your existing environment, home, work, but then also the environments that you share with your neighbor. And that can be from your residency to your cubicle.
Wow. Well, it's funny because as you're talking, I'm thinking every office I've ever worked in, it's all square. So I've never seen an office where there's any kind of curvature.
Well,
in my experience.
Yeah, what they're starting to do is even the amount of light that comes into a space can have influence on our emotions, our behaviors, our mindset, our focus. And they've done studies in California with young students. I can't remember the exact dates, but they basically said students who were in classrooms that had natural daylight filtering in, is not just about the vitamin D and all that stuff. It was, they're still trying to figure out exactly what the trigger is,
Wow.
but they're basically saying, in the short of it, students who had more natural light and could see the outside had a better performance in their grades, and those who didn't were either the same or they went down. So that can even relate to focus, maybe even the way the teacher's teaching. There's a lot of different components here, but that's another principle of Feng Shui, is what we call letting the outside in. And one of the easiest things to do is just open up your blinds and your windows in the day. And if you're able to have good airflow, that's another component to the principles. Movement. So you could say, okay, practical movement of wind, but we'll also look at as practical movement of qi or energy. So there's a lot of different components to this.
Wow. Okay, well, you and I had discussed, and I think, because we met a couple of years ago, you do, not have done, workshops for Strength for Life.
Yes.
And that's a program, a nonprofit program for cancer patients, cancer survivors, and that's how we met.
Yes.
And one of the things you taught, I believe you used the Bagua Map when you were speaking to us. And so, can you explain that a little bit? Because I know it has the different, clearly I have no terms whatsoever,
Yes.
the different things.
The different life sections. Yes. So what I have here, I just conveniently have a Bagua Map right by our side. Wow. Basically the Bagua Map, this is a Western stylized. You can see it's a little bit beat up. It's used, lots of love. But Bagua means 8, even though you'll see there are 9 squares. So essentially, each life section correlates to a category that makes up our journey in life. So you can kind of think of it like a storytelling map. And that's what Feng Shui is doing. It's saying, what's the story that's currently being told in your environment, whether it's the workspace or the residential, and now you have guidelines on how you can assess it, evaluate it, and then change it. So based on your thought, meaning your intention, you're becoming more conscious about it instead of, acting on a subconscious program that's been running. So this wakes you up, it gives you awareness. So each life section will be associated with a particular element, or you can group elements together. And when I say the word element, that's referring to elements that are in our environment. So in Feng Shui, there are 5 elements. So it follows traditional Chinese medicine. So we have element of wood, fire, earth, metal, water, wood, earth, metal, fire, water. I think we got them all. Okay, yes. And then you'll see they're also associated with accent colors. Again, there's usually a primary, we'll say foundational color with each life section, but you can blend the different colors together because they also relate to blending different elements together. And then you can do shape. So this is when we talk about interior design.
Okay.
You can start to bridge Western perspective and lifestyle with Eastern perspective and lifestyle. And then you again say, what is my intention for change, and or what am I feeling challenged by? And then you take this Bagua Map or this grid and you lay it over your entire floor plan to start. And then you can break it down to each individual room. And then you can even do your desk or your cubicle. So you can really, some people even do this over entire neighborhoods or cities.
Really?
Which has been done in China. We actually had this done in
That's
Lindenhurst.
cool.
So yeah, in 1996. One of my mom's teachers, her name was Pamela Lawrence. And she was credited for being one of the Western pioneers of Feng Shui, introducing it to these areas, and then Lindenhurst was blessed to have that experience, and they're pretty thriving right now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
It's hidden, a hidden little fun fact. But yeah, so this is one of the main methods that we'll be utilizing, and sometimes we'll sprinkle in a little bit of compass method, a lot of 5 elements, a lot of Bon Buddhist tradition. So that's the spiritual development, or also known as self-development. So there's a lot of nooks and crannies in here, but at the surface, it seems like maybe there's not much going on, but there's a lot.
Well, I'm reading all the headings and
yeah.
everything, even I'm like, oh, there's a whole lot going on.
Yeah, so, and once you start really, because a lot of people say, how do you know what you're doing? Honestly, it's like
Good
anything,
point.
you just gotta practice. So you start with the basics on the surface, and the more involved you become with it, means the more involved with your own self-awareness, your own life journey. It can open up a lot of doors. I remember my mom, her name was Carol Provenzal, when she was teaching me this, she said, Laura, this will become one of your foundations to fall back on and then build upon, but you're not staying here.
That's where you're starting.
This could be a starting point, and it's a fabulous starting point.
Yeah. And it's funny, is it intentional that health is in the center, or is that just?
Yeah, each area will also correspond with a direction.
Okay.
So what happens is the westernized method, when it was introduced to America probably back in the 1970s, maybe a little earlier than that. But people didn't really grab hold of it until it started making its way from California, right?
All right,
surprise,
man. Cool.
All the way to New York in our backyard, which was in Old Westbury, which is where it made landfall, which is really cool. So it just hopped, skipped, and right over. But basically, what was the question? I forgot. I was like,
you went on.
I went on, and I was like, what?
Well, because health, I noticed
Oh
on
yes,
this
health
map
in the
is
center.
in the center.
Yes. Okay, so I was going at, thank you, is that each area corresponds to a direction. The center, it says health, the center is also referred to as Tai Chi. So it's saying that no matter what, because a lot of times people say, oh, the center is completely still. Not necessarily. If we go into a more poetic discussion of this,
Right.
It's saying, right, Tai Chi, the polarization is saying that we're constantly balancing to create that harmony, because maybe the area of family is in balance, but this area is not. So we have to figure out, you're like a detective, why is this area maintaining so well, and what's happening here in the current or from the past that is bringing this imbalance or this perspective of imbalance.
Okay, so it's fluid, which you maintain to address whatever's going on.
Because they'll also refer to the center of the home as the heart of the home. So if the center is not feeling balance or in harmony, or whichever word you want to use to describe it, then the rest of these guas or life sections become easily disrupted. So this is a very important area, but the ironic thing is people like to only focus on career, wealth, not even reputation, which is so important too, romance, and once in a blue moon they might jump over here.
We sort of forget about that because we have to deal with this right here, right? This is what's right. Instead of sort of being open to all of it, we use tunnel vision. Yes,
and that could also be part of just the society of things, you know? So because again, we're blending Western society with Eastern society and philosophies and things of that nature. So this is teaching us, if you will, to blend those two worlds together and say, yes, being practical, having survival skills, however you define that, is very important, yet don't put all your money on that, because what do you value? Family connections, not just intimate relationships, but relationships with friends, with yourself first and foremost. So all these areas start to speak to each other, but you got to start listening.
Right.
So
but you said relationship with ourselves, and that's actually, I think, the most neglected relationship there is.
Yes, it's a big one, because one of the biggest reasons I get called, and probably other consultants and masters and experts as well, is because they'll say, I would like to attract a lover or a romance or my soulmate, but then again we have to say, oh, hold up now. What is the definition of that of soulmate or lover or romance to you in this current moment, because then we have to go backwards and start peeling back the layers. Because then once we have that insight and those intentions, we have to get clarity on how you're speaking about it, how you're behaving towards it, what you're talking about, what you're feeling.
Right.
Because that's all the other layers. So Feng Shui teaches us awareness of not just the physical environment, but the internal environment. So your mindset, your emotions, your intentions, the spiritual reality of things. So there's a lot going on here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope that you and I will be able to sit down and talk about the whole romance and relationship thing on a separate level. But I want to know, you also have another form with, you had touched base on the 5-element theory.
Yes, so here we go. It's convenient. So this is like real old school chart right here, but we have, what you see here is the 5 elements. So again, fire, earth, metal, water, wood. So when you have the 5 elements in a sequence that is in a circle, it means completion, meaning they're feeding into the next, which is a good thing. And then sometimes you'll have a chart, which you don't see it on this one, but they'll have arrows where they're opposing each other or opposite. Almost looks like a star, basically.
Okay.
And basically, for example, if we have too much fire in an environment or too much fire element in a person's personality, it can actually be harmful and it could melt metal. So what happens is, it's a bit of an abstract topic, but just giving you a quick example of that is that everyone's home is going to be made up of these elements, and it's just understanding how to mindfully balance them in the space. And then this is where the discussion from the Bagua Map or the directions where we talked about what's the color associated with the element, what's the item, what are different items or objects that can be associated with each of these elements. And then you begin to, like an alchemist, begin to design and orchestrate a conversation between all of these elements within the environment. And then you can even figure out, okay, what's your personal element based on your date of birth. So that goes into a whole other level. And then you can say, oh, I'm getting more insight on what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy. If I'm going to interact with certain people, I can kind of get a heads up on their elements. So, for me, 2 of my main elements that make up my personality is earth and metal. And when I'm, let's say, encountering a person who's very fiery, I might step back because I'm just like, I don't know how to handle that. But now if I say, okay, what is fire element and how can we balance that out, then you can either wear certain clothing or you can create an environment that will help, sandwich that energy, if you will, that element, so it balances it out.
Contain it somewhat?
Yeah, it can either contain, I don't like to use the word control because it's whatever, but yeah, it will basically just reharmonize that state of the person. You can even how you talk, the pacing.
Really?
Yeah, all of this stuff. It's all embedded in there. So it's, it's really fascinating. Like, quickly, some little traits about metal element. These people tend to be very organized. They don't like a big mess, no clutter. And I find that if I have a lot of work going on, or different projects, I have to make a list. These are list people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're listy. See,
I
make lists, but then they stay in my pocket, or they, or I'll make this list and I'll scribble out 1 or 2, but then here's another list I'll stick right on top of it, and then so I do that, but not, no.
Yeah. So if we have a quick example of an earth person, which I definitely gravitate towards, these are people who take their time, they like to ground in, definitely love the outdoors, mountain
and
energy.
You do.
Yes,
You do.
Totally about that. Fire element, these people tend to be your actors and those who express themselves, very dynamic, they light up the room, so to speak. Then we have wood element people. These people are how I think of them is like they're go-getters, they're driven, they're runners, and you'll see that definition in other other people, how they describe it. And then we have water element. These are the deep thinkers, the philosophers, You know, they don't mind spending time by themselves, but they sure as hell don't like being contained. So they.
I don't know anyone that would fit that profile.
But again, there's more to it, because then there are different levels of it, but it's just giving you a quick synopsis of, you know, how
That's
these
really
guys
cool.
can play into each other, and then how you can introduce them into the environment. And again, it becomes easier the more you practice it. It's like, you know, they'll say you're working out your Feng Shui muscle,
Right.
readjusting your Feng Shui eyes. There's all different metaphors and analogies you can use.
Wow. Okay. So now, I wanted to speak with you about some workshops you've started to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you're training people. Is training? Do we say training? Is
Yeah,
is that okay?
Yes, it's okay. We're training people. We're giving them. So there's a few workshops coming up. I cannot remember every single date. There's at least 4 of them
Okay.
in process right now, but they're all in the end of September.
But if you can't remember a date, do you have them up somewhere?
Yes.
Website, social media?
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're on my website, they're on my Facebook page, they're all over the place. But they are at the end of September. We're covering different topics, which is exciting. The first topic we'll delve into a real in-depth discussion and understanding about how to attract authentic love and relationships. So that will be taking place at Time for Karma. Can't remember the exact date, but it's towards the end of September. The next one will actually be really geared towards teachers. So how to feng shui your classroom for
That's
success.
cool. So teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and also people learning more about it so that they can become what?
They can become certified. So
Okay, and that's the end of September as well?
yeah, that we're gonna have a 2-day introductory class on the weekend of September 29th and 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2-day. And then from there on, those who wish to continue will do a full year's worth of certification.
Oh,
Yeah.
a year?
Yeah, well, probably
my.
it's the real deal. So this is geared towards people who are serious about becoming certified. We're gonna go into the ins and outs, the intricates. We'll have field trips. I'll have guest teachers.
Wow.
So that way, there's a well-rounded experience with the educational aspect, hands-on. You'll be learning how to feng shui your own home first, and then you'll also have projects. So
Now, what is your website?
website is fengshuimanhattan.com.
Okay. And how do you spell that for anyone who's never spelled it before?
Yeah, so feng shui is FENGSHUI, and then the word Manhattan.com.
Okay, and social media?
Social media, we're all over the place. Twitter, honestly, just go to the website and everything is
That
linked.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad you let me sit down and talk to you today.
Thank you. Yes, it was very fun.
It was a pleasure.
Mhm.
And fengshuimanhattan.com. Thank you so much, Laura Cerrano.
Thank you.
I'm Kate Fox.